Okay, looks like we are live on YouTube now. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody listening wherever and whenever this podcast finds you. Thanks for tuning in and welcome to my Bitcoin weekly wrap up for September 5th, 2019. And this week's weekly roundup is sponsored by eToro, a trusted smart trading platform that is over 12 years old and conducts over $1 trillion in trading annually. They offer innovative tools and advanced charting features to help you be the best trader that you can be. U.S. customers, unlike in years past where they were only offered to non-U.S. based customers, but now they are in the U.S. They can now trade on the most popular crypto assets with transparent, low fees. And if you're new to trading, while you are learning, you can also practice your strategies with their virtual trading tool, letting you use virtual money to test and see how those strategies will actually react in a real trading environment. You can connect with over 11 million other traders where you can discuss things like, trading, charting strategies, all that kind of stuff. So if you go actually to didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro, and you use the link, and you'll see the link if you're on YouTube, I'm pointing down. You'll find the link right there. And you use that link, you'll be helping them, one, letting them know that you came through me. And two, you'll also get $50 for free, subject to some terms and conditions as far as where you have to do a minimum deposit there. And if you go over there, you can get that $50 through my link. So go to didyouknowcrypto.com/ETORO. That's didyouknowcrypto.com/ETORO. So let's look at what happened this week. So the first article is about the NSA. So this was passed around. CoinDesk, Zero Hedge even picked it up. Cointelegraph, anything that was crypto related picked up this story. And it was about and the NSA has said that they're developing a quantum resistant crypto. Now the one that I read, I believe it was on Cointelegraph. I'm not sure. And then when I Googled it, I saw all the different, usual people report, or the usual suspects report on the crypto space. It was all based on one tweet by Mr. William Turton, who is the cybersecurity reporter for Bloomberg, covering a talk by the NSA's cybersecurity chief. And since we cannot view the video of the talk and the actual context, I looked everywhere. So it's their 10th annual cybersecurity conference, and I couldn't find video because I wanted to actually view it to be 100% sure that my take on it was correct, although I'm pretty sure, given corroboration by some other people as well that I've seen just in the last 8 hours, on the 5th of September. And my instinct is that this was a total bogus story that was based on not people lying, but just a lack of context outside of this space. So cypherpunks, if you read anything written by people that were the earlier cypherpunk movements, or kind of the earlier cryptography movements, they refer to the cryptography space as crypto, right? And they're actually quite resentful over us and the kind of the Bitcoin world using the term crypto to refer to cryptocurrency, which is why I've actually started to rebrand actually a little bit. I interviewed Phil Zimmerman, who was one of the early cypherpunks, developed PGP, and he talked about that. And it was like a really interesting little thing that during my interview on my show, Did You Know Crypto, he's ripping the term crypto. And at first I was like, okay, fair, whatever. And then as I thought more about it, I was, actually that is true. I don't like the hijacking of terms and things like that. So it's one of the reasons, not the only one, but I've actually started to do that, remove that on my own. It's partial kind of in deference, I guess, a bit to the cyberpunks who preceded us. And if I actually had to guess what she was talking about, the NSA is actually working on a quantum resistant cryptography, right? Because once quantum computers come, SHA-256 and a lot of encryption protocols will become really not that useful and secure any longer. And from what I've read, I'm not an expert in this at all, but from what I've been able to read is you can actually start to develop quantum resistant encryption algorithms and things like that prior to the actual quantum computing existing. So I'm guessing that this is what she's referring to. And this is something that the NSA has been talking about for a very long time and probably been working on for a lot earlier than that. So, this is nothing new. And I just thought it was kind of funny that there's so many people that are supposedly writers in the space that don't have that broader context. But anyways, a lot of people probably have come in from 2017 and later and just don't have a lot of that context. But I think that that's a failing that many of us have not been able to educate a larger swath of the community in these kind of fringe edge effects and the context that kind of surrounds this space, and we kind of get very insular. The next story is on Paxful's launch of a New York Department of Financial Services approved, wait for it, gold-backed ERC-20 token. Wah, wah, wah. It is, I mean, it's a neat idea, right? To tokenize gold, or this concept of tokenizing physical assets. And they claim that the token itself, I'll talk about it here in just a second. I mean, but it is neat to kind of try to figure out how can we actually do that, right? But they claim that the token gives you the legal title to the actual commodity and not just like the paper value you trade like an ETF, right? So if you have a gold ETF, you don't own, I don't even know what a gold they're probably, they're like, I think one per ETF is like 1/10 of an ounce or something like that. So if you take your ETF, you can't go and take the ETF that you own and go and say, I want 1/10 of an ounce of gold. That's just not how it works. And to me, this is all unnecessary. You can already purchase gold and silver from retail shops. You can go to JM Bullion. You can go to APMEX. I don't know if APMEX actually offers it, but like JM Bullion and a lot of other places that are retail, right? They will happily store your gold. They offer vault options and things like that, where you basically buy it and you're given an IOU to that physical gold, and you can either later sell it to them at a higher or lower price depending on what it's at, or you can have it shipped to you and take personal possession of it. The token itself is just that. It's an IOU that you can redeem for gold at any of the participating locations that Paxful is working with. And there are some interesting applications kind of in that you can use these tokens to obtain loans through loan providers like Salt. I'm sure they'll probably expand through that. But at the end of the day, this doesn't really solve any problems. You're trying to tie a physical asset to a digital representation of that asset, right? So if I break into that vault, and I steal admittedly, their IOU is not to a specific bar of gold or anything like that, right? But let's just say they are only offering one token for one ounce of gold, right? That's all they have right now. And I break into that vault and I steal that 1 ounce of gold, and you're the only guy who has that one token so far. Your token doesn't represent anything to me. It doesn't stop me because you have the keys to that ERC-20 gold token. You now have a useless token that has no longer anything tied to it because it's been stolen. I mean, yes, I understand insurance and all that kind of stuff, but I actually have the gold. What Bitcoin gives you, it's the keys to control the actual asset. The keys that you hold to your Bitcoin control that Bitcoin. The keys you hold to that ERC-20 token control just that token, not the underlying asset. So with Bitcoin, you control the UTXOs. And as long as you hold those and no one takes them from you, you hold the asset. Bitcoin is the asset. PAXGOLD token is just the representation of a real asset. And this took a while for me to kind of really recognize, because I was very excited, like, we can take land titles and car titles, and then when I sell my car, all I got to do is I just send you this token, and now you have the car, right? And the problem is like, okay, I have the token title to the car, but and I own it. But what if somebody steal? Like, it gets very weird. Like, how do you tie it? How do you actually? There's no way to securely tie the asset to the token in the way that Bitcoin itself is the asset and the keys hold that asset. So anyways, That's just my hot take on the PAXGOLD token. So next we have the vice president of Apple Pay division at Apple announcing that they are, quote, let me look at the quote here, watching cryptocurrency and, quote, we think it's interesting. We think it has interesting long-term potential, unquote. And this might actually meant something. Announcements like this in 2014, 2015 were a really big thing. Even 2017, just in terms of like bumping prices. But every fintech company has been watching crypto for the past 2 years. So this means really, absolutely nothing. And considering that Apple has innovated by introducing the new technology of a credit card, very groundbreaking, they may try to introduce their own permission centralized currency similar to Libra. Who knows? I did find it interesting, though, that the fact that Google, Amazon, and Apple were all absent from the Libra Foundation. And that tells me one of the following, that they are either working together or individually to create a competitor of their own, or they're researching the idea basically and letting Libra take the slings and arrows so that they can navigate those waters with clear eyes as to the pitfalls that are going to await them as far as regulatory compliance and congressional issues. And the last story that I want to touch on, I thought was very interesting. It was a piece of testimony in Congress by David Murray. He's the vice president for, it was product development and services at Financial Integrity Network. Prior to that, he worked for about 9 years at the Treasury Department. He advocated that, or he was putting forth the idea that miners should be regulated on some sort of new class of financial institutions known as virtual asset transaction validators. His casus belli is not new, and it kind of retreads the old tropes of Bitcoin being the haven of the worst dregs of society. Namely, his thing was human trafficking. And because crypto can be used to promote human trafficking, it needs to be regulated. Now, we all know that this is pretty much near impossible to implement, since you or I can join the network and mine without permission, and kind of that's the point. But if what he's proposing actually went forward, there's pretty much ban Americans really from using Bitcoin or operating any Bitcoin related businesses or exchanges, since they would not be able to be in compliance with these sort of things. It's basically almost putting a AML KYC and validating that every single person who transacts on the network can be guaranteed is not a bad guy. That miners will, that this is kind of this, a lot of times what these regulators do is they pass the buck, right? So they are saying we need to make sure that bad people are not doing bad things. Well, they make the banks the actual regulators, right? They say, banks, we don't want you guys to allow people to launder money. So if you don't make sure, we're going to lock you up. When in fact, it's really kind of their job. They're just kind of passing the buck, but nobody wants to go to jail. So they just kind of do it. What makes this interesting is that if world governments did enact this, let's say they somehow came together, it would be very detrimental for Bitcoin in over the short term. It would kind of, to me, end the era of big mining firms where you kind of have these large conglomerates with warehouses and mining and everything like that. And in any of the countries that would sign on to this, right? And it would push these big mining firms probably into whatever countries were like, hey, do whatever you wanted. And this is because if you try to operate a large mining establishment in any, from China to the United States to Europe or anything like that, it wouldn't take but a few moments to really spot these guys based on their size, the amount of power, and you just have to basically monitor like hydroelectric areas and wherever that kind of power is produced, and any other cheap electrical sources for them, probably like a geothermal as well, and just start monitoring just those specific spots. It'd be very easy. Just monitor where they would likely be able to operate, and once they pop up, you start playing whack-a-mole as they moved on to newer areas. And this would, to me, have the effect of actually decentralizing mining into more individual mining. Individual miners whose energy usage wouldn't pique much interest, or smaller operations going mobile and jump around to stay ahead of law enforcement. Similar to if you look at marijuana grow farms, you could not have well, I mean, those did exist, but it made it very difficult for massive warehouses of these grow farms to exist, because the power was a big thing. Police would always monitor, and they would get tip-offs from the power companies when they see big power spikes in areas where they previously hadn't, and they would check it, is this a factory or something like that? And it caused, we had a lot of smaller grower operations and things like that, and they would even monitor that. So like if you had a house and you're using roughly $120 a month and electricity, and all of a sudden it tripled, that would kind of get you popped up on there. But I think you would see a lot of these mobile, smaller mining operations, and as long as the economic incentives are present to mine, people will always find ways to do it. That all being said, that would be predicated on, all this stuff that I'm saying, be predicated on these big miners refusing to do so, which is iffy. And I almost doubt that they would. And I think many would. It's really difficult because it would go against the incentives of the network and kind of reduce the value of the network if they did comply with the orders. But you also have this massive investment. So what do you do? And most of the time, industry usually bows to regulation. And this kind of relates to an argument I had with some people in the BSV community recently in regards to, they were arguing about their app Twitch, this idea of immutable Twitter. And then they were, crapping on Gab as being, a haven full of racists because they don't do anything, any kind of moderation at all. And the concept of illegal images being posted in applications like that. And some were arguing that the miners would just comply with court orders to remove content or images selectively, right? And I don't say that it's impossible, right? Especially on a smaller chain, and especially on the chain where people are saying, like, we welcome regulation and, just do whatever you want. But one that would require a protocol change away from what Bitcoin is to do this selectively, and would basically kind of destroy their meme of it being Bitcoin 0.10 as being all that Bitcoin ever needed. It also brings up the issue of, if miners are then subservient to court orders, it really is the network decentralized, since the ledger can be changed at any time by the order of one centralized entity. To me, it kind of destroys that decentralization issue. And why do we even need a decentralized network that uses a vast amount of energy to secure it against these sort of arbitrary changes from centralized entities? But no one knows how this will play out, and legal precedents set over the next decade will probably dictate what societies are going to ride the wave of the future or fall behind, kind of clinging to these past ideas of what normalcy and what's necessary are. And yeah, so that's it for this week's weekly wrap up. And I want to thank you for listening. Please, if you can, go to iTunes, leave a review. Just go to my website at didyouknowcrypto.com. Click on the Apple iTunes icon and leave a 5-star written review. It really helps out, and I really do appreciate it. Also, show some love to my sponsor, eToro. They offer the best place to buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin with the largest trading community. They got low fees, high security. So head over to didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro. That's didyouknowcrypto.com/ETORO. And when you do that, you'll get $50 when you sign up with them using that link. Subject to the terms and conditions, like I said, you have to have a minimum deposit as well. So go over to that link. And once again, I really appreciate you guys listening or watching if you're on YouTube right now. I appreciate that. So feel free to reach out at any time on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, anywhere that you could find me. All the links to my social media are on my website as well. So DM me, write emails, whatever you want. And I look forward to talking with you, and have a great day.